I was sitting on my back porch, boots up, coffee going cold, watching a grown woman in a blazer tiptoe through my barn on a 3-inch phone screen. She had a clipboard under one arm and the nervous energy of someone who knew exactly how wrong this was. I didn't call the sheriff. I didn't move. I just watched and smiled. 'Cause Brenda Sterling, HOA board president, self-declared protector of neighborhood standards, had just walked into the one place on this property she was never meant to survive alone. She was busy looking for violations. She had no idea something in that barn was already looking back at her. I set my coffee down slowly. This was going to be worth every letter, every fine notice, every certified mail headache of the last 3 weeks. Let me back up, because this didn't start in that barn. It started with a knock. Brenda Sterling didn't just move into a neighborhood, she conquered it. 3 years as HOA board president, and she ran that title like a military commission. She had a laminated badge she wore to community meetings, a color-coded violation clipboard she carried like a weapon, and a smile that never once reached her eyes. People on our street learned quickly. Cross Brenda and you'd find a citation on your door before your coffee was ready. She got a retired veteran's flag taken down over a size technicality. She'll find a 74-year-old widow 3 consecutive months for garden gnomes. She personally reported a 12-year-old's lemonade stand for operating without a permit. Not because the rules demanded it, but because she could. That was the point. Power wasn't something Brenda used. It was something she collected. And the moment she turned that clipboard toward my farm, I knew she wasn't coming to inspect. She was coming to own something that wasn't hers. What Brenda never bothered to learn, and this is the part that still makes me smile, is that some land doesn't negotiate, and some of us have been waiting for exactly this kind of visitor. The first letter arrived on a Tuesday. Barn exterior paint, and I want you to understand this, was described as visually inconsistent with community aesthetic standards. My barn was red. It had always been red. Every barn within 40 miles was red. Red is the default setting of barns everywhere on this planet. I read the letter twice, wrote a calm, documented response, CC'd my attorney, and went back to work. The second letter came 6 days later. My rooster, Colonel, a Rhode Island red with the confidence of a man who owns the room, was allegedly in violation of Section 4B, subsection 9 of the HOA noise ordinance, crowing before 8 in the morning. Colonel was a rooster crowing. At dawn wasn't a habit. It was his entire career. I CC'd my attorney again and gave Colonel an extra handful of feed. The third letter accused my livestock of being, and this is a direct quote, visually offensive to community members passing the property boundary. My horses, visually offensive. I framed that one. Then came the certified letter. Brenda was demanding access to inspect my property within 48 hours, or she would pursue legal action. I read it once, set it on the counter, and didn't respond at all. Not because I was rattled. Because I already knew something Brenda hadn't thought to check. Something that would make every letter, every citation, every clipboard she ever carried completely irrelevant. She came on a Thursday morning, and she didn't come unprepared. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because this wasn't a spontaneous decision, a moment of poor judgment, or an accident of ambition. Brenda Sterling drove to my property with bolt cutters in her trunk. She had planned this. She had thought it through, packed her tools, rehearsed her justification, and decided that a padlocked gate was merely a suggestion standing between her and what she considered her professional duty. The chain hit the gravel before 8 in the morning. Colonel was still mid-announcement. She pushed the gate open, clipboard already raised, and walked onto my property like she'd been deeded the place overnight. She moved through the barn first, photographing feedbacks, measuring stall widths, scribbling notes with the focused energy of someone building a case. Then she crossed the yard, tried the back door of the farmhouse, found it unlocked, and walked straight in. Just like that. No hesitation. No pause at threshold where a reasonable person might stop and think, this is someone's home. She moved through the kitchen, opened cabinets, and ran a finger along the countertop like a hotel inspector who'd already decided to leave a bad review. She checked the garage. She measured the hallway. She photographed the water heater. And with every step deeper into my home, she told herself the same comfortable lie. Most people tell themselves when they're doing something they know is wrong, that the reason behind it made the action acceptable. It didn't. But Brenda wasn't thinking about that. She was thinking about citations. She was thinking about leverage. She pushed open the door to my home office, spotted the filing cabinet, and reached for the handle with the quiet confidence of someone who had never once been caught. That's when the house went still in the way that only happens when something large and unhurried decides it's time to move. She didn't hear a bark. She didn't hear a growl. She heard pause, slow, deliberate. Getting closer. Titan is not the kind of dog you hear coming. That's the first thing people get wrong when they imagine a livestock guardian. They picture barking aggression, something loud and obvious announcing itself across a field. Titan didn't operate that way. At 140 pounds of White Pyrenees and Anatolian Shepherd, he moved through space the way weather moves. Unhurried, inevitable, already decided. He had been bred for one purpose across centuries of instinct: identify the threat, contain the threat, and wait. He was exceptionally good at his job. Brenda turned around slowly, the way people turn when something in their nervous system registers danger before their brain catches up. He was sitting 3 feet away, perfectly still, watching her with the patient, unblinking focus of something that had already run the calculations and liked the odds. She tried the voice. I've seen it 100 times. That reflexive, high-pitched baby talk voice people deploy on unfamiliar dogs like it's a universal password. Good boy. Titan blinked once. Unimpressed, didn't begin to cover it. She reached slowly for the door handle behind her. Titan stood up. All of him. And Brenda Sterling, HOA board president, laminated badge and bolt cutters and 48-hour ultimatums, took one step backward directly into my filing cabinet. The impact sent papers cascading in every direction, and by some miracle of chaos and terrible timing, activated my printer. It hummed, warmed up, and printed one single page with the quiet efficiency of a machine that had no idea it was about to become the most important document in a trespassing case. Brenda didn't notice. She was busy trying to climb onto my desk chair, which rolled immediately and deposited her directly into the printer itself. Titan sat back down, watched, waited. Outside, I was leaning against the porch railing, sandwich in hand, watching every second of it unfold on my phone screen. I took a slow bite. The footage was crystal clear, and the printer, bless it, was still running. I walked in through the back door the same way I always do. Slowly, without urgency, because urgency would have suggested I was surprised. I wasn't. Titan looked up at me once, tail moving in a single, satisfied arc, then padded back to his bed in the corner, like a contractor who'd finished the job and was ready to clock out. Brenda was on her feet by then, hair restructured by chaos, blazer carrying the evidence of a filing cabinet's entire personality. She opened her mouth, and the threats came out in the order I expected. Lawsuit, animal control, county commissioner, legal action, her attorney, my attorney, the specific ways in which my life was about to become difficult. I let her finish, every word. When she finally stopped, I walked to the kitchen counter, and I set down 3 things. The first was a deed, laminated, notarized, and clear as a summer morning. This land was agriculturally zoned, which placed it entirely outside HOA jurisdiction. Not partially outside. Not debatably outside. Completely, legally, irrevocably outside. The second was a flash drive. 40 minutes of uninterrupted 4K footage showing every room she'd entered, every cabinet she'd opened, every photograph she'd taken inside a private residence she had entered. by destroying a padlocked gate with tools she brought from home. The third was the page the printer had produced during Brenda's collision with my filing cabinet. I picked it up, turned it toward her, and watched her face process what it was reading. HOA Bylaw 12, Section 3. The clause that explicitly acknowledged zero authority over agriculturally zoned land. Her own rulebook, printed by her own panic. Delivered by a machine that owed her nothing and charged her everything. Her clipboard dropped 2 full inches before she caught herself. I noticed. I noticed the way you notice something you've been waiting 3 weeks to see. She looked up at me, and I could see the exact moment the architecture of her confidence stopped holding weight. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The squad car rolled up 40 minutes later, which told me the deputy had been close when I called. I had called, by the way, 20 minutes before I ever walked through that back door. I want you to understand the sequence. I had watched Brenda enter my home on a live camera feed, documented the timestamp, contacted the sheriff's department, and then made a sandwich. In that order, the deputy stepped out, assessed the situation in about 4 seconds, and turned to Brenda with the particular patience of someone who had stopped being surprised by people a long time ago. She launched immediately into her version. The wellness concern, the community responsibility, the aggressive animal, the manipulative rancher. He listened, then he looked at the flash drive in my hand. "Ma'am," he said, "you cut a padlock to enter private property, walk through a residence without permission, and the animal never touched you. That's not an inspection. That's a felony. That's when the black SUV pulled up." 3 HOA board members, summoned by Brenda for backup, stepped out just in time to watch their president get handcuffed on a gravel driveway. Titan sat beside me on the porch. Colonel crowed once from the yard. Nobody filed a noise complaint. Here's what 3 weeks of certified letters, bolt cutters, and 1 very patient livestock guardian taught me. Documentation beats intimidation every single time. Know your land, know your rights. Know exactly where your property ends and someone else's authority doesn't begin. Brenda Sterling walked onto my farm, believing that confidence was the same thing as power. It isn't. Preparation is power. Titan is power. A laminated deed and 40 minutes of 4K footage is power. She learned that lesson on a gravel driveway in front of her own colleagues. I just provided the classroom. If Brenda Sterling got exactly what she deserved, hit that like button. Subscribe to Karen Conflict for more and drop 1 word in the comments: justice.